Hi everyone, so today I thought I would do an updated version of my current writing projects because last time I actually did this video was on the 23rd of December and that was obviously a while ago, and so I wanted to do another one and kind of talk to you about some of the projects I have been kind of working on recently, I guess, but obviously not all of these. Some of these ideas are actually just ideas. Most of them are ideas apart from like series books, I guess, because I don't tend to work on standalones and I'm not entirely sure why. But I think we should just get on with this video. On my well, you probably don't know this, but on my laptop I keep all of my series books in one folder and then all of my standalones in another, because I tend to work on series projects rather than standalone projects, so it's easier for me to get to my series projects. I think the first ideas I'm going to go through are the standalones because I haven't really worked on them at all. Go through those first. Okay, so we have 12 altogether in the standalone section. So the first one is All We Need Is Love, and I don't think I've ever talked about this one before, but it's basically heavily based on religion. It's very like religious heavy, or at least that's what I want it to be anyway. And I don't know if I actually have, oh yes, I do have an ideas brain dump. Let's have a look at that. It might take a while to load. I hope All We Need Is Love is going to be like very religious heavy, and it's about obviously two main characters, because all of my books are romance pretty much, but there are usually subgenres, and a boy meets a girl at college, but their parents know each other as friends. And oh, okay, so the first thing I've actually got written down is girl's family and boy's family go on holiday together. Girl and boy know each other because they go to college together. And I also have down that she sees an old library her grandparents used to own but is shut down. And the next one is Arden's Theory. I know quite a bit about this already because it's a project that I started working on a while ago and then got about 20,000 words of it and I stopped because I hadn't outlined or anything like that. It was a while ago, that is probably why. And it's actually about this girl called Arden, and she has this theory that underneath the UK like loads of mantle plumes are happening and it basically cracks the Earth's crust and splits the UK in half. That's all I've got so far. It's going to be like sci-fi, action and romance and maybe adventure, I don't know, but there's this, her stepdad is a seismologist, and then her love interest, Cade, Cade's dad is a geologist, and like Arden and Cade are kind of, they look up to their fathers, well, stepfather in Arden's case, and the book is basically about Arden's theory and Arden's theory happening, but I need to do a lot more work on it. And then we have I Want to Be More Like Him, which is basically about this girl and her brother dies of suicide and she starts turning into her brother, and then things start to change when his brother's best friend arrives, and I guess it's just like finding out about why her brother killed himself and things like that. And then there's Lunar Soul, which is actually based on Greek mythology, and I'm really excited to start working on it when I can. I don't know when I'm gonna get around to it, but I'd really like to start working on it like next year maybe. That would be exciting, and because it's going to be a standalone, that makes it even more exciting for me, because then I don't have to worry about the sequel for it or the prequel or anything like that. And then there's one I've got titled New Novel, which I have no clue what it's about, and the same with Nightmare Novel, which I also have no clue about. And then there's No Filter, which is basically about this autistic boy that goes to college, and he basically has like no filter for his words or what he says or anything like that. It's basically, and because he's on the autistic spectrum, he obviously finds it harder with relationships and like other people in general, and he is also gay, so obviously bi. I don't actually remember, but what happens is this new boy kind of joins and the college, and then this autistic boy and this other boy like bond, and the new boy doesn't know the autistic boy is gay, essentially. And I have a feeling I made it so the autistic boy doesn't talk at all, and then when the new boy comes along, he starts talking and opening up, and then he eventually ends up in No Filter. And there's Royals of Dine, which I'm sure I've talked about before, but it's basically going to be a fantasy, romance, adventure type book with magic. Royals of Dine was the first fantasy idea that I came up with, and while I'm not that experienced in fantasy, I would like to be. I do need to read more fantasy books though, so I will be doing that at some point this year. And then there's the paramedic, and then the swimmer, and then there's voicemails from my ex, which is basically about this girl and her boyfriend commits suicide, and before that he basically left like a bunch of voicemails for his girlfriend, and the voicemails actually lead her to find out not how he killed himself, but why he killed himself. All of these books, all of my novels will be aimed towards an adult audience, not because there's loads of sexy parts in them, but because they're all very realistic, and I don't think a young adult, like my sister's age or my brother's age even, when my brother's class as a child, basically it's because of the fact that I'm just not a YA writer. I'm an adult writer, and that doesn't sound the least bit wrong. And then I've gone off on a tangent here, and then the last book in the standalone section is We Found Love, and I have talked about this before. It was in my previous version of this video. It was in December's version of this video, and I originally was calling it Seeing Ghosts, but now I have changed that obviously to We Found Love, and it's basically about this girl whose boyfriend committed suicide. Are you seeing a theme here? And she basically starts seeing him again, and she has panic disorder, and like because she keeps thinking that she sees her boyfriend, she's obviously misdiagnosed. I don't really know how I'm going to write this because he is a ghost, but she falls in love with him again. Those are all of the books in the standalone section, which I don't even really pay much attention to, which is why I don't know much about them. So I'm gonna know a lot more about my series ones, which brings us on to the series books. And now I have 6 folders in my series section. Am I going to mention all of them? I might as well. So the first one is just basically called the Action Volcano book series, because it's basically going to be about this town or village, whatever, and it's going to have like a mountain like behind it, and it's basically gonna explode and cause havoc in the village. The next one is the Modern Royals of Odin series, which I don't know if I'm actually going to continue with, because while the Royals of Odin is going to remain standalone, I don't feel like there needs to be any kind of spin on it. It's basically just because Royals of Odin is set in like the 19th century. Yeah, it is. And basically the modern series will be set in the present day. And I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to continue with it, because I don't think it's going to become a thing at all. And then there's the Water series, which I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to continue with either. Right, so the last 3 series books, I'm like going to go into a little bit more detail. I'll talk about Out of the World series first. Basically, I know I've talked about this before, but if you are new here, I will obviously tell you. Out of the World is basically a theme park where the main characters work, and in the first book, Adrenaline Rush, Eva meets Zack. He is a new, like he starts working there, and Eva and Zack start bonding, and Eva has a bit of a dark past. She basically had a boyfriend that abused her physically, emotionally and sexually, which is obviously quite dark and deep and very personal. And Zack basically comes along and Eve starts opening up to him. I am thinking that maybe I would like to come up with an idea for a prequel, because I do realise that there is like a whole story before Adrenaline Rush. So Secrets of a Singer is basically about this girl that has anxiety, and she is a singer, as it is in the title. She basically goes on tour in the USA and the UK, and kind of like at the very end of the tour she has a panic attack on stage, she faints, things happen, her fans see everything. Should I be saying this? I don't actually know, but that happens. She has to explain to her fans what happened, and then there's obviously Hayden, her love interest, her boyfriend, her fiance, in that order. And at the end of the book she kind of like gets pregnant, and then in Secrets of a Singer Undercover she gives birth, but she's also working undercover as a singer, because she is supposed to be on a creative break, but she's not, so no one knows that she is like doing anything. And that's basically why it's called Secrets of a Singer Undercover. She works with Annika Marie, her former enemy, Steph, her best friend, and she also works with Hayden sometimes, because Hayden is a music technician. He works all over the place. She also works with Grayson, who is a new character in Secrets of a Singer Undercover. Like Annika and Grayson are only 15. Ev is the oldest. No, Steph is the oldest. That's Secrets of a Singer Undercover. And then in the third book, which is Secrets of a Married Woman, Hayden basically gets a job in... Should I be saying this? I guess it's okay. Hayden gets a job in Australia. So he goes over to Australia for like a week. I don't know. He basically goes to work there for it's a few months. I remember now. Ev and Hayden are married in Secrets of a Married Woman. Duh. And while Hayden is away, he actually starts drinking and he develops an alcohol addiction. Hayden develops an alcohol addiction, and then when Ev and her kids... Does she have kids in it? Yes, she does. They have kids as well, because it's like 10 years later. And Andrew's like 10, obviously. Ev and her children go to visit Hayden, and Ev finds out that he's been relying heavily on alcohol and things don't go well. But they obviously still love each other. Ev and her children don't go back home alone. Hayden has to go back with them because of his alcohol addiction, as he's unable to work. And then there's Secrets of a Teenager, which is basically told from Angie's perspective, but not really, because the whole entire series is going to be in third person limited, so it's going to be limited to, the fourth book is going to be limited to Ange, which is short for Angela, by the way, if you were wondering. In Secrets of a Teenager, Ange is about 15, 16 years old, and at the end of the book, she sadly, do I say this? Let's not say it. Ange is obviously in secondary school, she gets badly bullied, and it actually leads her to very low points. And I'm not going to spoil the ending of the book for you because I know that will be heartbreaking. And then in the fifth book, it focuses on Dylan's perspective when he is about 15, 16. It's been like a few years since stuff happened with Angela, and Dylan basically finds out what really happened to her. He obviously doesn't cope with it very well, and Dylan is... Should I just get my notes up? The last book in the Secret series will be 10 years since the last one, so Dylan would be 17. And it says here, Angie's second eldest brother tries to uncover the whole truth of his oldest sister's death, only to find there's more lurking in the dark. Dylan meets Alicia, who actually tried to save Angie's life, and he asks her questions about Ange, and it's getting dark, so I do need to finish up this video. And it's basically just about Dylan and uncovering the truth about his sister and trying to find out his truth and identifying his sexual orientation, because he feels a strong connection to men, but he feels like he could end up being with either a man or a woman. And he actually meets Sam throughout the book, Sam Bennett, and he instantly connects with him, and Sam helps Dylan to uncover the mystery of his sister and helps him to realise that he is bi and prefers men. The Definition series, I did retitle it to the Love All Around series, but I'm not liking that. It needs to change. But obviously we all know what the definition of love is gonna be about, so I don't really need to speak about it too much, but it's basically about Lenny and Colton, and Colton has depression, tries to kill himself a lot, and Lenny used to have anxiety, was medicated for it, but then went off her medication because she was doing okay and she was feeling a lot better. And then Colton arrives and things get worse for the both of them, and Lenny has the stress of work to deal with, which she doesn't deal with very well. There is a staff shortage at the pool that she works at, and it doesn't help the stress. Basically, the rest of the books in the series are all going to be like different. They're going to have different characters in, but I do believe in the fourth and the fifth book there will be Lenny's and Colton's stories again. The fourth book will be Lenny's story, and then the fifth will be Colton's story. There are going to be 8 books in the series. There are going to be a lot of different issues throughout the whole series. Like, this whole series is basically going to be centered around love and the challenges that everyone faces while in a relationship. If you enjoyed me talking about my current projects, let me know down below, and if you have any questions, please do ask. Also, make sure to subscribe, the button's down below. I will see you next week with a brand new video. Bye!